Hey everybody, I'm Mike Krukow, and these are my grandchildren, Cohen
Hi.
and Reagan,
Yes.
who just lost a tooth. And for all of us at the Northern Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation, we love stories, and in that we're all staying in, I think we could use a good story right now. So the one we'd like to read you today is called Many Moons by James Thurber, and it's a good one. Are you ready? Once upon a time, in a kingdom by the sea, there lived a little princess named Lenore. She was 10 years old, going on 11. And one day, Lenore fell ill because she ate too many raspberry tarts and she took to her bed. The royal physician came to see her and took her temperature and felt her pulse and made her stick out her tongue. The royal physician was worried. He sent for the king, Lenore's father, and the king came to see her. Look at her in her bed. Wow. I will get you anything your heart desires, the king said. Is there anything your heart desires? Yes, said the princess. I want the moon. If I can have the moon, I will be well again. Now the king had a great many wise men who always got for him anything he desired. So he told his daughter that she could have the moon. Then he went to the throne room and he pulled the bell cord, 3 long poles and a short pole, and presently the Lord High Chamberlain came into the room. The Lord High Chamberlain was a large, fat man who wore thick glasses, which made his eyes seem twice as big as they really were. This made the Lord High Chamberlain seem twice as wise as he really was. I want you to get the moon, said the king. The Princess Lenore wants the moon. If she can have the moon, she will be well again. The moon, exclaimed the Lord High Chamberlain, his eyes widening. That made him look 4 times as wise as he really was. Yes, the moon, said the king. M-O-O-N, moon. Get it tomorrow. Get it tonight, but tomorrow at the latest. The Lord High Chamberlain wiped his forehead with a handkerchief and then blew his nose loudly. I've got a great many things for you in my time, Mr. Majesty. It just happens that I have with me the list of the things I have got for you in my time. He pulled the long scroll of parchment out of his pocket. Let me see now. He glanced at the list, frowning. I have got ivory, apes and peacocks, rubies, opals and emeralds, black orchids, pink elephants and blue poodles, gold bugs, scarabs and flies and amber, hummingbirds' tongues, angels' feathers, and unicorns' horns, giants, midgets, mermaids, frankincense, myrrh, troubadours, minstrels, and dancing women, a pound of butter, 2 dozen eggs, and a sack of sugar. Wait, sorry, my wife wrote that in there. Well, I don't remember any blue poodles, said the king. Well, it says blue poodles right here on the list, and they are checked off with a little check mark, said the Lord High Chamberlain. So there must have been blue poodles. You just forget. Never mind the blue poodles, said the king. What I want right now is the moon. I have sent as far as Samarkand and Araby and Zanzibar to get things for you, your majesty, said the Lord High Chamberlain. But the moon is out of the question. It's 35,000 miles away, and it is bigger than the room the princess lies in. Furthermore, it is made of molten copper. I cannot get the moon for you. Blue poodles, yes, but the moon, no chance. The king flew into a rage, and he told the Lord High Chamberlain to take a hike and to send for the royal wizard to come to the throne room. The royal wizard was a little thin man with a long face. He wore a high red-peaked hat covered with silver stars and a long blue robe covered with golden owls. His face grew very pale when the king told him that he wanted the moon for his little daughter and that he expected the royal wizard to get it. I have worked a great deal of magic for you in my time, your majesty, said the royal wizard. As a matter of fact, I just happen to have in my pocket a list of the wizardries I've performed for you. He drew a paper from a deep pocket in his robe. It begins, Dear Royal Wizard, I am returning herewith the so-called Philosopher's Stone, which you... No, that isn't it. The royal wizard brought a long scroll of parchment from another pocket in his robe, and he said, Here it is. Now let's see. He goes, I have squeezed blood out of turnips for you, and turnips out of blood. I have produced rabbits out of silk hats, and silk hats out of rabbits. I have conjured up flowers and tambourines and doves out of nowhere, and nowhere out of flowers, tambourines and doves. I have brought you divining rods, magic wands, and crystal spheres in which to hold the future. I have compounded philters and unguents and potions To cure heartbreak, surfeit, and ringing in the ears. I have made you my own special mixture of wolfbang, nightshade, and eagle's tears to ward off witches, demons, and things that go bump in the night. I have given you 7 league boots, the golden touch, and a cloak of invincibility. Didn't work, said the king. The cloak of invincibility did not work. Yes, it did, said the wizard. No, it didn't, said the king. I kept bumping into things, the same as ever. Well, the cloak is supposed to make you invisible, said the wizard. Well, it's not supposed to keep you from bumping into things. Well, all I know is I kept bumping into things, said the king. The royal wizard looked at his list again. He says, I got you. I got you horns from elfin, sand from the salmon, and a gold from a rainbow. Also a spool of thread, a paper of needles, and a lump of beeswax. Sorry, those are things my wife wrote down for me to get her. What I want you to do now, said the king, I want you to get the moon. Princess Lenore, she wants the moon. She's not feeling real good, and when she gets the moon, she'll be well again. Nobody can get the moon, said the king. It's 150,000 miles away, and it's made of green cheese, and it's twice as big as this palace. The king flew into another rage, and he sent the royal wizard back to his cave. Take a hike, he said. Then he rang a gong, and he summoned the royal mathematician. The royal mathematician was a bald-headed, nearsighted man with a skull cap on his head and a pencil behind each ear. He wore a black suit with white numbers on it. Look, I don't want to hear a long list of all the things you've given me since 1907, the king said to him. I want you to figure out right now how to get the moon for the Princess Lenore. When she gets the moon, she's gonna feel well again. Well, I'm glad you mentioned all the things I figured out for you since 1907. It just so happens I have a long list of them right here with me. So he pulled a long scroll of parchment out of a pocket and looked at it. Let me see. I have figured out for you the distance between the horns of a dilemma, night and day, and A to Z. I have computed how far is up, how long it takes to get away, and what becomes of gone. I have discovered the length of the sea serpent, the price of the priceless, and the square of the hippopotamus. I know where you are when you are at 6s and 7, how much is you have to make an R, and how many birds you can catch with the salt in the ocean. 187,796,132, if it would be of interest for you to know. There aren't that many birds, said the king. I didn't say there were, said the mathematician. I said if there were. I don't want to hear about 700 million imaginary birds, said the king. I want you to get the moon for the Princess Lenore. Ah, the moon, it's 300,000 miles away, said the mathematician. It is round and it's flat like a coin. Only it is made of asbestos and is half the size of this kingdom. Furthermore, it is pasted on the sky. Nobody can get the moon. The king flew into another rage, and he sent the royal mathematician away. Then he sang, and he rang for the court jester. The jester came bounding into the throne room in his motley and his cap and bells, and sat at the foot of the throne. What can I do for you, your majesty? The court jester said. Nobody can do anything for me, the king said mournfully. The Princess Lenore wants the moon, and she cannot be well till she gets it, but nobody can get it for her. Every time I ask anybody for the moon, it gets larger and farther away. There's nothing you can do for me except play on your lute. Play something sad, the king said. Well, how big do they say the moon is, said the court jester, and how far away? Well, the Lord High Chamberlain says it's 35,000 miles away and bigger than Princess Lenore's room, said the king. The royal wizard said it's 150,000 miles away and twice as big as this palace. The royal mathematician said it is 300,000 miles away and half the size of this kingdom. The court jester strummed on his lute for a while. He says, they are all wise men indeed, and so they all must be right. And if they are all right, then the moon must be just as large and as far away as each person thinks it is. The thing to do is to find out how big the Princess Lenore thinks it is and how far away. Well, I never thought of that, said the king. I will go ask her, your majesty, said the court jester, and he crept softly into the little girl's room. The Princess Lenore was awake, and she was glad to see the court jester, but her face was very pale, and her voice was very weak. Have you brought the moon to me, she asked. Well, not yet, said the court jester, but I will get it for you right away. But how big do you think it is? Well, it's just smaller than a thumbnail. For when I hold my thumbnail up at the moon, it just covers it. Well, how far away is it? The court jester said. Well, it's not as high as the big tree outside my window, said the princess, for sometimes it gets caught up in the branches. Well, it will be very easy to get the moon for you, said the court jester. I will climb the tree tonight, and when it gets caught in the top branches, I will bring it to you. Then he thought of something else. What is the moon made of, princess? He said. Oh, she said, it's made of gold, of course, silly. Well, the court jester left Princess Lenore's room and went to see the royal goldsmith. He had the royal goldsmith make a tiny round golden moon just a little bit smaller than the thumbnail of the Princess Lenore. Then he had him string it on a golden chain so the princess could wear it around her neck. What is this thing I have made? Asked the royal goldsmith when he had finished it. You have made the moon, said the court jester. That is the moon. But the moon, said the royal goldsmith, is 500,000 miles away, and it's made of bronze, and it's round like a marble. That's what you think, said the court jester, as he went away with the moon. Court jester took the moon to Princess Lenore, and she was overjoyed. The next day she was well again, and could get up and go out into the gardens and play once again. But the king's worries were not yet over. He knew that the moon would shine in the sky again that night, and he did not want the Princess Lenore to see it. If she did, she would know that the moon she wore on a chain around her neck was not the real moon. So the king sent for the Lord High Chamberlain and said, we must keep the Princess Lenore from seeing the moon when it shines in the sky tonight. Think of something. The Lord High Chamberlain tapped his forehead with his fingers thoughtfully and said, I know just the thing. We can make some dark glasses for Princess Lenore. We can make them so dark that she will not be able to see anything at all through them. Then she will not be able to see the moon when it shines in the sky. This made the king very angry, and he shook his head from side to side. If she wore dark glasses, she would bump into things, he said, and then she would be ill again. So he sent the Lord Chamberlain away and called the royal wizard. Well, we must hide the moon, said the king, so that the Princess Lenore will not see it when it shines in the sky tonight. How are we going to do this? The royal wizard stood on his hands, and then he stood on his head, and then he stood on his feet again. I know what we can do, he said. We can stretch some black velvet curtains on poles. The curtains will cover all the palace gardens like a circus tent, and the Princess Lenore will not be able to see through them. So she will not see the moon in the sky. The king was so angry at this that he waved his arms around. Black velvet curtains, they'd keep out the air. The Princess Lenore would not be able to breathe, and she would be ill again. He was mad, and he sent the royal wizard away and said, bring in the royal mathematician. We must do something, said the king, so that the Princess Lenore will not see the moon when it shines in the sky tonight. If you know so much, figure out a way to do that. The royal mathematician walked around in a circle, and he walked around in a square, and then he stood still. I have it, he said. We can set out fireworks in the gardens tonight. We will make a lot of silver fountains and golden cascades, and when they go off, they will fill the sky with so many sparks that will be as light as day, and the Princess Lenore will not be able to see the moon. The king flew into a rage, and he began jumping up and down. Fireworks would keep the Princess Lenore awake. She would not get any sleep at all, and she would be ill again. So the king sent the royal mathematician away. Take a hike. When he looked up again, it was dark outside, and he saw the bright rim of the moon just peeping over the horizon. He jumped up in a great fright and rang for the court jester. The court jester came bounding into the room and sat down at the foot of the throne. What can I do for you, your majesty? What can I do for you? Nobody can do anything for me, said the king mournfully. The moon is coming up again. It will shine into Princess Lenore's bedroom, and she will know it is still in the sky, and that she does not wear it on a golden chain around her neck. Play something on your lute. Play something very sad, for when the princess sees the moon, she will be ill again. Court jester strummed on his lute. Well, what do your wise men say about it? They can think of no way to hide the moon that will not make the Princess Lenore ill, said the king. Court jester played another song very softly. Your wise men know everything, he said, and if they cannot hide the moon, then it cannot be hidden. The king put his head in his hands again and he sighed. And suddenly he jumped up from his throne and pointed to the windows. Look, he cried, the moon is already shining into Princess Lenore's bedroom. Who can explain how the moon can be shining in the sky when it is hanging on a golden chain around her neck? The court jester stopped playing on his lute. Well, who could explain how to get to the moon when your wise men said it was too large and too far away? It was the Princess Lenore. Therefore, the Princess Lenore is wiser than your wise men and knows more about the moon than they do. So I will ask her, And before the king could stop him, the court jester slipped quietly out of the throne room and up the wide marble staircase to the Princess Lenore's bedroom. The princess was lying in bed, but she was wide awake and she was looking at the window at the moon shining in the sky. Shining in her hand was the moon the court jester had got for her. He looked very sad and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. "Tell me, Princess Lenore," he said mournfully, "how can the moon be shining in the sky when it is hanging on a golden chain around your neck?" The princess looked at him and laughed. "That is easy, silly. When I lose a tooth, a new one grows in its place, doesn't it?" "Of course," said the court jester. "And when the unicorn loses his horn in the forest, a new one grows in the middle of his forehead." "That is right," said the princess. "And when the royal gardener cuts the flowers in the garden, other flowers come to take their place." I should have thought of that," said the court jester. "For it is the same way with the daylight." "And it is the same way with the moon," said the Princess Lenore. "I guess it is the same way with everything." Her voice became very low and faded, and the court jester saw that she was fast asleep. Gently, he tucked the covers in around the sleeping princess. But before he left the room, he went over to the window and he winked at the moon, for it seemed to the court jester that the moon had winked back at him. And that is the story of many moons. And for all of you, thank you for listening. And a reminder, support NNCCF and let's fight childhood cancer. Thank you.